What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast today, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, Move On.
So grab your jackets, grab your coats. The sound of our feet now crushing the snow. This bitch of a night gonna give way to the sun. We'll find a trail and we'll build a new home. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. So why don't we just move on?
If you like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
So I heard about this thing. I don't know if it's called this, but it's like an Erica Palooza.
Yeah.
Or like your big concert you throw every year. What's going down with this? Is this like every year you have a big festival for your birthday?
Yeah, we've done it 3 years now. The first year, I rented an Airbnb out in Toronto, Kansas, and it was just a good handful of musicians. Nick Marshall was there. It was the first time that I met Matt Elton, and we all just kind of got together and had our own little tiny music festival.
And so the first one, then it sounds like it keeps growing though. Is
Yeah.
word on the street.
Yep. So you're definitely
One day-
invited out. All
Yeah, I guess it sounds like I'm trying to get an invite. No, I was just curious about how that's grown for you and where the
Yeah.
inception was. It just kind of like at first, like, hey, let's
yeah,
get out there and play some music together.
pretty much. Yeah. So I always like to take around my birthday off, and it's Labor Day weekend. So we do like Monday, Labor Day, or that Sunday and Monday when a lot of musicians kind of would have some free time. A lot of times, I don't know. And it's great to get to hang out with, just bring everybody together because we're all so busy all the time. Like we'd have our jam nights and stuff, but to really get some quality time with each other, creating music and just being. It's
a lot of jokes we have with other folks were like, yeah, if we can put a show together where we actually like play in the same night is when we can hang out, basically, is what it seems like. Or January, because January gets a little slower for
for sure.
everybody. I have some friends who aren't in the music industry, and I was like, hey, you want to get together anytime this month? I'm good. And then it starts going crazy again. It's part of the life though. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. For you, the inception, my understanding, is from one of these festivals as well. The inception of Flat Susan.
Yes.
Is where that came together.
So I think I've known Ashley for about 10 years now, and we just kind of been acquaintances. And she came to 2 years ago, Erica Palooza, and we got Lauren Davis and Amanda Huey, and we just all started singing together, and it just magically came to be.
And the magic came together and continues to grow.
And we got Miss Nikki White in, and just the missing piece.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
Now, when you started, so you've been doing this about a decade, right?
Mhm.
Like professionally.
Yeah, right at 10 years.
When you started out, was it just, I want to do this solo thing, or did you have a vision for putting together this full band and what you guys are living in now?
I never thought that I was going to be, and I always thought I was going to do the solo one-woman band thing. Yeah. I think it's been a few years. The first time I met Lauren Davis, she's like, we're going to be in a girl band together one day. I'm like, okay. Like, I ain't got time for that. No.
I got shit to do. I can't do more shit.
But then it just magically happened, and it's the best thing ever. I couldn't imagine my life without them. I'm so in love.
What's the differences for you versus solo to band? What are the things that you like most about
I love
the difference?
Well, just the fact that we're really creating our own music for me is as one woman band thing. I make my money playing other people's songs, and I don't and I've and putting my own music out there. It's always just kind of been on the back burner for me. So just having all of this oomph with the girls to really push and create things and record an album and the whole shebang is pretty special. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and so a few years back, I remember meeting you, I think first time at the Plaza, and you were playing a show and you were talking about writing as well at that time. I remember us talking a little bit about it. And so you were writing solo. What are the things that have been challenging for you writing solo, switching into writing with a group?
Mm.
Or if there is anything challenging? I don't know.
Yeah. And in a way, it's more. It gives me more motivation and lights more of a fire because once we start riffing off of each other, it just it seems to things seem to get written and fall into place a lot easier sometimes too. I don't know. I go through modes where sometimes I can write, sometimes I just don't for months, or I don't know. With the girls, it's really coming very easy.
Where the ideas are flowing more and more for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I went from solo writing for the most part. I still do a ton solo on my own, but then writing a group, that's been for me it was is eye-opening. It was challenging at first though for me to switch. It sounds like for you guys it just clicked.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always you got to I get past the barriers and let yourself just open up and let it go. But as soon as we started being extremely silly and just letting the freak flags fly, it's just it's been so much fun.
That's awesome. You're like let's say the crazy shit.
Yeah.
What's coming out?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the fun part about it too, is you got different minds just throwing. We had a writing session. It was right before Christmas. We start up next week again, and like I remember I was like, okay, we got 1 hour because there's one song we're just like slaving over like for months. We kept going back to it. We were working on other ones, but we kept going back to this one, and finally we're like, we got 1 hour. This is what has to happen. We know the melody. Go. And it was actually really fun because like you said, it's like we had to let go a bit and just start throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And then it's like, that was really stupid, but I like that one word. Okay, let's keep that word and go around.
Yeah, it's been awesome for to have the encouragement to just let it all out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a really cool culture to your band. I had Ashley on, Amanda was on a few weeks ago, and just hearing their perspectives of it, where it seems like you guys have a high level of trust, high level of connection in there. And I feel like that's got to be part of it. I think if you can't, I don't know, if you can't write, if you can't trust people you're writing with, it gets a little like stifled.
Yeah.
I've definitely had those sessions. For us, there's nights where I was joking to another friend of mine who's a musician. I was like, it's almost like we're just like in counseling together. We're just, it'll be like 2 hours of like group therapy and then let's write a song is what it overflows. Do you guys feel that same?
For sure. Yeah. We're therapists to each other.
It's like, we're writing songs for you guys, but it's really just to get us as a band, get us through shit, get us through things. Now, obviously starting about 10 years ago, but where did music start for you? Was it something ever since you were a little girl or?
Yeah. Since I was born, I think. So mom was in labor on Labor Day and I came out with my fist up in the air like a rock star, ready to rock.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think she said I was singing before I could walk and talk. I've been walking or talking since I was like 9 months old and just been singing ever since.
That's amazing. Did you do choir? Did you do anything like that?
So I went to a ton of different schools growing up, everything just within a couple hours north of Kansas City, and grew up in the choirs. And then on the day I turned 17, I dropped out of high school and got my own place. Was having crazy family life stuff.
Gotcha.
And then I put myself through about a year of school at UCM and studied music and majoring in vocal performance, and thought
Nice.
that I wanted to go on and maybe be a professor in music of some sorts or something. And that just didn't. Then I just,
Where
then I,
where was it that you realized like, nah, I don't think so?
I don't know. It took a couple years after that, and I kind of had a breakdown, and it just took a while to find myself again. And
I get that.
then I found my man Aaron. We've been together about 15 years now, and he moved me to the Kansas side, and I just kind of
I'll
worked odd
forgive you for
jobs.
that. I'll
Yeah,
forgive you for that.
worked odd jobs for a couple years, and then just decided, why not? Why not do what I love? Just do it. Yeah, just slowly.
Where did the guitar come in?
I was 16. So
Okay.
I got gifted my first acoustic when I was 9. I didn't really start picking it up to play until I was about 16. I was somewhat versed on the keys from a really young age, but yeah, it's been a great tool to be able to accompany myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I reference you actually on this podcast I've multiple times, and not necessarily by name, but I'm like, whenever the concept of looping comes up,
Yeah.
I'm like, so there's this female artist, is what I'll typically say, who's out there playing. And I remember seeing that day I referenced earlier of seeing you at the plaza, and I walk up and I see you sound check and you loop and you started looping. And I've joked to so many people how like after that day, I refused to call myself a looping artist because I was like, she is a real looping art. Like the level of looping, honestly, I've never seen anyone other than like Ed Sheeran do like the level of looping and precision, balance, all of it is incredible. Now, obviously, you started playing at 16. Where did this live looping thing come into play for you?
Just 10 years ago. Yeah, as soon as
Okay.
I
Right
got
when
my
you started.
I got my first loop pedal a few months before I got out and started using it.
Was there anyone that inspired you to do that, or you're just like, I need a
Yeah, I
band?
think KT Tunstall for sure.
She's
I
great.
think I was 18 the first time I saw her do her thing with Black Horse and a Cherry Tree, and I was like, man, I could do that. I want to do that. I need one of those things.
God, I forgot about her on that.
Yeah,
Like, I
she
remember
was one
seeing
of
her
the
do that
first. She was
live on
one of
like
the
Good
OG
Morning
loopers.
America or some shit. Yeah, she was killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is she still going?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, big
Nice.
time. Yeah, I've seen her 3 times now. Top artist for me. I don't know,
The
like
number
singing
one.
live.
She sent you down this path.
Yeah,
What were the challenges in the beginning for you with the
like
looping?
with looping. I don't know. It's really come pretty natural. I mean, a lot of it is programming of things as everything evolves. I mean, I've got a certain way that I like to have my workflow go, and just kind of the most challenging bit is like getting to where I am now for how I've got it all set. This just exactly the way that works perfectly for me.
All the planning ahead of it.
Yeah, and I don't use tracks ever. So everything that I build is always live. So I think some of the challenges come if I'm just like a little bit off or something on one on my first loop, then it just sets everything out. I can recover pretty well from that now. I don't know.
Well, and that's it. Yeah, there's some times where I'll get like a beat going, and then you start going, you get into it, you're like, oh damn, I'm just a little off, and it's like, how do I get there? And you're
Yeah.
using the head rush, right? Is that what you're using?
Mhm.
Now, and I bought their smaller one, but I cannot get the timing with it very well yet.
Yeah.
That for some, the Boss one is what I use currently. I have both in my rig, and I'm still working with that head rush to get that timing. That's a challenge for me.
Right on. Yeah, I've used a lot of them over the years, but the Headrush looper board has been my favorite. I just got a new one. I bought the new Ed Sheeran Looper X.
Yeah.
It's pretty new on the market, and I tried that out for a little bit, but it wasn't going to work for me at all. It's about the same thing as the Headrush, but I don't know. It's had a lot of features that I couldn't route all my different instruments out individually, and there's just so many things that it lacked that I needed. So I got myself a new used Headrush looper board because they don't make them anymore. So there's like
You're
not
like,
there's
Ed
not
Sheeran,
a
what were you
product
thinking?
out there that's that's perfect. I love the pads that he has on there, but this thing has a lot more buttons too. So that's
I guess I like it simple. I just have the boss, and I like four. It's got like four knobs, and that's all I got.
right on.
But I'm not doing to a level that you are by any means.
I keep it really simple. I just layer a lot. I don't know. Bring them in and out.
I need to try to push myself a little further at it, a little further down the
It's so
road. But
fun.
now, what other artists right now are inspiring you as far as performance or in writing?
Oh, that's a good question. I always get so stumped on that question too. I don't ever think of anybody in particular usually. I like growing up, I never had posters of certain bands on my walls and things. I don't know. I love the way Casey Musgraves writes.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy Carlisle.
There you go. We'll take those. Those
Yeah,
are
there we
pretty
go.
solid ones. Pretty solid ones in there. I love it. Now, in the 10 years, in the beginning of that, you decided, why not go for this? Were you
Yeah.
still working another job and doing it on the side, or you just went all in?
Nope.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to have a lot of support from Aaron back then too. I didn't have to worry so much about really bringing in a lot of income at the
That's awesome.
beginning. So super fortunate for that, but just slowly grew it up. I don't know. And now it's like, it's really nice because after 10 years in it, I don't have to worry so much about filling my own schedule up or reaching out to people or trying to get gigs everywhere.
You just
It's
built up those networks.
Just come, yeah, they just come, or yeah, getting clients by word of mouth just from people knowing
Right.
that I've got what I've got to offer to them. You know, it's cool.
Well, so much of business is building this kind of networks, like in any business you are. That first year when you started out, what did it look like for you as far as opening up those networks?
Well, okay, so I started on Craigslist, just searching for other women who wanted to jam, and
Right on.
or looking for open mics and things like that, and networking and just seeing where all my other musician friends were playing, and then reaching out to all those venues, or seeing if any of my friends could hook me up with a good place to play, or I don't know. Yeah.
Just starting with the nodes on the network that you had, and
Yeah.
then expanding out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're like, yeah, this is what I do. I just make things happen. Was there, when you first started, were you starting just with original music, or did you go in knowing like, I'm going to need to put a bunch of covers together too? What did that
Mostly
look like for you?
covers. Yeah. And so, well, that's another thing too. My repertoire has grown so much over the years. So, I started out with a notebook full of printed out chord charts and lyrics, and just had 100 songs to flip through I could play. And now I think it's, if there's something that I've heard and somebody requested, I can whip it out for them. That's been just years of doing the thing. It's kind of cool.
Are you still on book, or are you just,
I'm
pull most
definitely on
requests?
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when I don't know. I've got some kind of a memory issue. I had a really bad accident when I was 16. I like blame it on that, but I get really scatterbrained. So if I've got like a cheat sheet or a reference,
It's like every once in a while.
most of the time for stuff that's like really ingrained into my bones, I'll be okay, but I still just need something to look at every now and then, or else I'm just off track. Yeah, but
my band gets on to me because I'll mess lyrics up. I literally mess up lyrics to our own songs. There's times I've turned around and looked at Daniel and been like, how's this song start? And it was like a song I wrote the lyrics for.
Yeah,
and he'll know it. He'll be drumming and be like, it's, whatever. It was the middle of the night. It's like, okay, I'm back in. My bass players, we run with it. We do tracks and all that. And we have cues just to kind of remind the form, especially shows when you have like 3-4 hours of music. But my bass player, he's building all of it in Ableton currently. And he just texted me like a few days ago. He's like, hey, do you want some vocal lyric cues in there? Maybe. I was like, no, I'm good. He's like, are you sure? you don't want a lyric because I don't like having music up. And the iPad thing
Yeah.
feels like it gets in my way.
Right.
And but then he's kind of like, all right, well, study more, basically, in
That's
that
true.
regard.
And that I'm sure that's so much of my dilemma too when I'm performing live, especially when it's like with the Susans and stuff we should have rehearsed, and I should know it backwards to forwards, and just I play thousands and thousands of songs. It's hard to lock it in on just
When you have all of that in there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's so funny. He's just like, Miguel, maybe we should give you some lyric cues in there. I'm like, maybe
That
we should.
happened to me just a couple days ago. We were going through one of my songs, and I was like, I had to ask the girls, what are my own lyrics?
Yeah,
I wrote.
It's the worst when
remember.
when I'm forgetting my actual own lyrics. It's like, bro, come on, man. Like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
When in doing music professionally, what are some of the challenges you feel like you've hit on in the last 10 years? Like things that you've had to overcome?
I think a big one is the money. Just kind of knowing, I don't know, not taking on things that I don't think are worth my while anymore when I know that I can be booked up making more, kind of thing. But and some of the challenges too are like when, say, I have a friend that wants me to play a party for them, but I could be making 5 times as much if I go somewhere else, and like just gut wrenching with myself to figure out what's the best thing to do to keep everybody happy somehow. I don't know. I think over the years I've gotten a lot better at asking for more. It used to be like, oh, I'm okay with a couple $100 or whatever. I mean, and it's always good. Like all money is good, but I don't know.
When you can get paid, way more than that. What was the thing that helped you like become more comfortable with just asking for more or saying no to certain things?
Doing it more and more and more, and it's gotten easier, but it's still really hard. It's still really hard to turn people down. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to ask for more when I know I could be turned down too.
It is always that one
Like,
where
well,
it's like,
well,
when I
okay.
start raising my prices and I throw it out there, I'm like, where like recently I asked a venue asked what my price was, and I was like, should I say this? And I was like, okay, here's the range.
Yeah.
And I never heard back from them again.
Right.
So
There's so many of those.
I'm going to follow up. We're about at the spot to follow up, but I'm like,
Yeah.
apparently that was out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's been a huge challenge for me too, of just saying no. Like I recently said no to a gig that I really wanted to do, but when I found out the numbers, I was like,
Yeah.
it's just not gonna. I can't make this work, and I still second guess it. Like even to this day, I shouldn't. Like it's all moved on. They weren't mad. They understood.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if you get caught in that. But I'm always like,
absolutely,
man, I feel bad because this person's
feel
cool.
bad about it. Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to be a part of that, but I don't know.
But then I think one thing has helped me too along the lines, and it sounds like a lot of the folks you're running with, probably a similar thing, is just seeing like some of my friends like, oh, you're booking stuff for that? Okay, that's out there. Like all of a sudden my eyes are open like, shit, I could be getting paid way more than what I seem to be okay with,
Yeah. I feel like it has bit me in the ass a few times too. So I think especially this month, I'm only booked on Wednesdays this month, which is nuts for me. Like normally I'm 5, 6, 7 days late, and always constantly playing. I know it's the wintertime thing.
Yeah, I feel you. I basically have said no to a lot of gigs with the band as we're trying to get into some different markets that we're doing. And that's been hard. And I realized I had to start saying no when I said yes to a gig I didn't want to take, because I was like, I need something on the books. And then a month later they called me and they canceled, and I was excited.
Yeah.
Like when I realized, I was like, yes. I
don't have to worry about this anymore.
It hit me. I was like, you should not have said yes. But it is tough. It is tough in that regard. Yeah, the valuing ourselves as an artist, I think for some reason is a challenge for so many people I talk to. And again, myself. Was there anything else that's helped you just see or I become more aware of the value you have as an artist?
I think just consistently people just being like, oh yeah, you're totally worth that. too, or just seeing the feedback that I get and feeling what, that they are feeling, what I'm giving to them and stuff. Is my brain is not coming to
No, it's all good. Well,
around.
like it makes sense though, like that confirmation,
Yeah.
or like even the first time I asked like a higher price for the band and people being like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like that's cool. And I'm like, it was that easy? Okay. We
Yeah.
can charge that now. And like maybe it sounds like we could have charged more and they would have said yes. That confirmation.
Yeah. That's hard too when you're like, well, your budget was a couple thousand more. Why didn't I? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy.
Shoot
I
high,
remember
and then you can always,
yeah, and negotiate. I remember
Yeah.
our first gig as a band, very first one ever. I think I asked for like $800. It was a private gig for a very large company. And they immediately said, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I was like, man, I knew nothing about like gigging in that regard. And come to find out, like they're paying 5 to 10 grand
Yeah.
for all these. They were probably like, sure,
Yeah.
this is great. We would have spent that in hospitality. You guys are,
Yeah.
but we had no idea. So
Yeah.
we're like, oh, this is cool. Our first gig, we got paid. This is awesome. When you look at 2025, rest of the year,
Mhm.
as you're talking, right now it's a little slower. Obviously, it's going to kick back up, no doubt, for you. What are you most looking forward to this upcoming?
Just time with the Susans, time with Flat Susan, creating and recording an album with them. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Is
That's awesome.
what we're about to be putting out into the world. I'm gonna cry. Yeah,
All
I'm
the
so
energy.
excited. Yeah.
That's amazing. I look forward to hearing that. I love seeing you guys at Boulevardia. That was amazing.
Yeah.
See you all on stage, killing it. Because I'd heard so many things about it and knew a lot of you all like individually, but then to see it finally come together is pretty awesome. When like if there's another person right now who is out there wanting to take that step like you did 10 years ago, what are like 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
Get to networking. Get yourself out there and go to an open mic and reach out to me and let me see if there's anything I can do to help.
You're like, get to networking and start with me.
Yeah. Want something else. Invest in yourself too, I guess. Yeah. And
what does that look like for you, investing in yourself?
Like if you're gonna be a performer like I am, get good gear, get a good sound system that's gonna be really great in as many different kinds of situations as you can imagine, kind of stuff. Make sure you're sounding really good. Your live sound sounds good and you can do it on your own.
What are you running right now? What gear are you running?
I use an EV50. There's a bunch of guys around town that are using this that recommended it to me. I've always been a fan of a tower line array speaker.
Yeah. Is that the tower as well? The EV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. And I love for just me as a solo performer to have, so I don't have to bring a whole bunch of extra monitors and whatnot. I'll just set up a couple towers behind me so that I can, and that's just how I'm used to hearing myself from behind.
I feel like I switched to that I have the Bose tower, but I think I know the one you're talking about because Jason Reinhardt set up one of those, I think, at like a cocktail hour I did one time. And I was like, oh my God, it sounded way better than the Bose. And I think the Bose sounds good.
Yeah.
But that's like the simplicity. I remember when I first started going, I would because I had like our in-ear racks and everything from the band. So I'd bring out like in-ear racks and bring in all this shit to like a small little club. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I started doing that where I just, selectively put that tower in a spot. And I'm like, this actually works out pretty good depending on the venue. Like if it's outdoor, it gets a little more challenging, all that kind of stuff. Do you bring in ears ever? Like depending on how big?
No, I never do.
Right on.
There's been a couple times, but usually I'm not the one running sound.
What else, when it comes to investing, what else are you doing as an artist to invest in yourself or just to keep your own sanity in the midst of this 5 to 7 nights a week playing?
Well, I invest a lot. I have invested a lot of time to like really make the gear that I do bring to live shows like as compact and as easy for me to set up with still having just a big bang. So I fit like everything that I have in my wagon, and it saves me a lot of time without bringing a bunch of extra stuff. That wasn't even the question, I don't think.
No, that's well, I think I definitely think that fits in the question because I think that's something people don't understand. Even to referencing what, like in the beginning, I was so used to the band life. And so I started bringing in all this gear and realizing I just didn't need all this gear. And
Yeah.
it's not making, like, it's basically like planning your success in that regard. Cause I'm like, if I'm some days I'm doing 2 shows in a row, I imagine you have those days as well, where it's
Mhm.
like if you got all this shit and you got to unpack it and to do this, you got to play a 3-hour show on top of
Mhm.
that. Like if you're not thinking through your flow and the gear you actually need, you kind of screw yourself in the end, you know?
Yeah.
You get exhausted. At least for me, I was getting exhausted bringing all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I got it down where I can get to a venue 15 minutes before I got to play, and I'm ready to go. I can set up and tear down within 10 minutes. And
Amen.
I got it down to a science now, and it has really been super smart of me. You know, it's saved me a lot of time and heartache to have it. I don't know, just be the most efficient thing it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Efficiency. Artists aren't always the best at that.
Mm.
It could pay off though. That's for sure. Any other advice you give to folks who are, you got networking,
Mm-hmm.
you got good gear, you
Yeah.
got efficiency. I like that.
Yeah. Just have the confidence to get out there and do it. Don't give up. Keep at it. If you got it, let the people hear you sing. Yeah.
I love it. It's like, get out and do it. Get out and do it. Now,
Yeah.
it's all been live performance. Have you done any teaching along the way in music?
But yeah,
Yeah.
I've taught some vocal lessons. It's not really my thing. I do enjoy like teaching beginner guitar. I'm not a lead player by any means. I'm not proficient in like any instrument, honestly. Like I'm a very simple play to accompany myself player. I keep getting better, but still I'm not like what is it? I don't know. Where the heck was that coming from?
I can relate to that though, because I try to tell people I barely consider myself a guitarist, even though I literally make my living off of accompanying
Right.
myself on guitar.
Yeah.
I see myself as a songwriter and a vocalist.
Yes.
And people who aren't musicians are like, I don't understand. You're up there playing
Yeah.
guitar all night and I'll loop and solo and doing stuff. I'm
Mhm.
like, the thing is I know guitarists. I know like really good guitarists, and I'm like, I'm nowhere near that. So so I feel you. Whenever I can and run with it, I've actually put down my guitar as much as possible. They get mad at me sometimes. They're like, hey, we really need you to, like, if we're doing a Foo Fighters song, we need you to play guitar, man. Like, we need more guitars. because Cody, our lead guitarist, is so phenomenal, you know. And even when I perform with Twice on Sunday, a lot of times I'll just set my guitar down on certain songs if I'm singing, where I'm like, I'd rather be dancing around singing with people and, you know, out there, but I play it out of necessity when I'm a solo artist.
Yeah. That's another thing that's been quite a lovely thing about playing with Flat Susan, is that every now and then I get a chance to just not play anything and only sing. That's where the magic is for me. Yeah.
I feel you. I love
being
it.
able to not focus on doing anything else.
Give me a handheld and let me climb all over the stage and jump out in the audience any day, all the time. Yeah, our guys are kind of like, hey, maybe we should just get a rhythm guitarist and you can never have to play guitar again. It's like, that's cool. But then now we have 6 people we got to pay every single night. So let's hold off just a bit so we can raise those prices a little more. But hopefully one day. Now, last 2 questions of the podcast. So right now in your life, how would you define creating a great life?
Creating a great life. Yeah.
Living. I mixed up the questions.
Yeah.
I messed this up. We'll just rewind. We'll pretend as if that didn't happen. I actually blended the 2 questions. I need to practice. I need to invest in myself as a podcaster and put some time in.
You've put the time in. I am proud. Oh my gosh. Man, I can't believe I was mind blown when I really got in and started listening. I was opened my Spotify and I didn't realize you could see the whole video through Spotify too.
Yeah, they just started that. That was amazing.
So cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so proud of you, Miguel.
Thank you.
You've been doing amazing, and I've really been enjoying everything that I've been listening to. It's awesome.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been cool. Like all the guests on this thing, I think you're probably going to be like episode 150 or something. And
Okay.
just looking back, like there's some people now that like they're one of the members of my band. I met him through the podcast, like Paul Size, and like there's other people where we do business together now, or like it's been cool just to see how like these interviews and these connections, kind of like your point of networking, like how it grows over time. And I learn a lot. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. But we'll try the ending again. Here we go.
Okay.
So right now, how would you define living a great life?
Okay. Living a great life for me is living in my purpose and my passion. I'm really fortunate that I get to do what I love, and I get to make a living at it, and I get to see the joy that I bring to people's lives, and that makes it a really great life for me. On top of just my career, and then like most important is spending the time with the people that I love. I've got a really great tribe that loves and supports me a lot, and I think they're just constantly evolving and reaching for those goals that maybe I've had my whole life, and maybe I'm taking baby steps to get there, but it sure is a great life trying to get there.
That's awesome. Now, and you said your purpose, like, what do you define? Like when you boil it down, what do you feel like your purpose is and all that?
Just sharing all of the love that I have through the art that I make. I don't know, being it just making the world a better place with everything I can do.
Awesome.
And, yeah.
Sounds like you get to do that
people
quite a
happy.
bit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, for the last question, how would you define creating great things?
Okay. No, kind of like that. I'm I don't know about what the things that I've created, if they're great or not, but I'm an extreme perfectionist too.
Yeah, I get the perfectionist piece. There's times
Yeah.
I have to just be like, here's my 30 minutes. Okay, let it go, or else I'll obsess until like 3 a.m. over
Right.
things that I've literally had a producer kick me out of a studio once because he made the mistake of giving me the mouse and letting me sit in his chair. And like it was probably like, I don't even remember, like it was super late at night. And he looks at me and he goes, Miguel, I'm going to send you home. And the reason I'm going to send you home because now you are making changes that scientifically have no audible difference. And those are the changes you're making. So you need to go. I was like, okay, I'm going to walk away. So I get the perfectionist thing. That's for sure.
I'm sure as soon as we're done conversing, I'll think of a million other things I wanted to say.
Well, and I do think it's interesting that a lot of times, like greatness, to me, I guess for me, greatness is almost found in the process of it. If I can let go of the perfectionist part of me, it's like staying on that, for lack of a better term, grind of creativity.
Yeah.
I don't know if you relate to this, but like in creating, sometimes it's like I'm almost too afraid to create. Like if I take a break from it, like to come back, it feels scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, for me, it's almost just great to fucking show up and do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that
I
connects with you or not, but
I hold myself back a lot and self-sabotage and don't allow myself to create as much as I want to.
when it comes to creating in general, do you have a process? What does that and what look like?
Well, right now I'm working on a project for a client in Texas, and I feel with all my bones that I can't create anything for myself until I get this done. Or I can't create if my environment is a tornado or something.
Yeah, I feel you.
So what was the question?
What, as far as like what your process looks like in creation?
It's just taking the time to do it. And I think lately too, having partners to create with has been a huge incentive, because sometimes it'll just, when I'm creating things, it'll just happen in the moment and pour out. And there's, it's not like I'm trying to do anything. It just happens. And that's the best.
It is.
Yeah.
When it like starts flowing.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting this to come out today.
Yeah, there is one song we're working on right now. It's gonna come out here probably like spring 2025.
Yay.
And it was one of those. A lot of times it's like this labor of craft for me, where you really just honing in. But this particular one, it was like just sitting at the piano and like mumbling as if someone like took over my mouth and just started singing. And I get kind of chills thinking about it, because I'm like, unfortunately that doesn't happen for me a whole lot, but when it did, I was like, this is great. I love it. I took it to the band. I was like, do you guys love it? And they were like, yeah, we love it. I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Because those moments are, yeah, it's hard to describe. And it's one of the few that they actually, because they have a lot of opinions, my band. And that's why we're a band. Like we're all trying to make each other better. That particular one, they were like, let's not really mess with it. Let's just kind of add like a little flavor to it. And I'm like, this is interesting. Well, let everyone know how they can connect with you, how they can check out Flat Susan, all that good stuff.
So Flat Susan Official on Instagram. If you just Google hashtag EOWB for Erica One Woman Band, I pop up everywhere, Erica Woman Band on all social media platforms. My website, ericamckenziemusic.com. Facebook's a really good place to follow what's going on in music for me, because I update the most there, put my schedule out and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having me, Miguel.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.